This election, funnily enough, has not mentioned Brexit as much as you would think it would, this election in Britain. But the story is still the same. If the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish National Party, etc., get a coalition majority, shall we say, and form a government, then Brexit is finished. It's not going to happen. And that's simply how things are. And it's been clear, as information has come to light over the months, that these elements of the political class in Britain, in all the political parties, including the Conservative Party, where they have a vehement, if minority, wish to stay in the EU, and the totality of the opposition parties, plus those Conservatives who don't want to come out of the EU, that numerical group is the reason that we're still in the European Union now. But anyway, what's been happening is this pro-EU element of the political class across all parties has been in league with the bureaucrats in Brussels, who've never seen a ballot box, to stop Brexit. And now this guy, Michael Barnier, has come out and said that Britain, right in the middle of an election campaign, when he should keep his trap shut. They talk about interfering in the elections of other countries. They do it all the time. Barnier orders EU to accept free movement or face crippling trade barriers. Brussels will demand that Boris Johnson accepts free movement of people or be forced to stomach tough trade barriers for goods after Brexit, Michel Barnier tonight revealed. In a private meeting with MEPs, the EU's chief negotiator said the link between the frictionless movement of goods and people will be the toughest question in the next round of talks. He claimed Mr. Johnson's timetable for a free trade agreement by December 2020 is too short and will not be met. And 11 months is too short a period of time, Mr. Barnier said, because they want to keep kicking it down the street. The longer they do, the more chance they've got of stopping it altogether. We will have to focus on specific subjects. So he is, therefore, entering a British election campaign and scuppering, or trying to, what Johnson is standing on, which is that when we leave the EU, there will be no free movement of people. And the reason that so many of the British public want an end to free movement is because it means that large numbers of people from European countries can just move into Britain whenever they like. Now, if you've got, a reasonable movement of people, well, that's all right. But when you've got vast numbers of people coming in, especially from countries that have low incomes, and thus they come into Britain and undercut the wages of the low paid in Britain, then you've got a problem. And of course, this is happening in the United States, big time. And the biggest losers, or one of the biggest losers, are the black communities in America, who are seeing their wages already low. Same with, white people as well, but it seems to impact, so I'm reading, on the black community severely. Their already low wages are being undercut by arrivals from south of the border and thus they're losing their jobs and their ability to function, pay their bills, etc. And of course, the left, the woke left, is all in favour of unfettered immigration. It just so happens that unfettered immigration to transform the nature of societies is right up there as one of the biggest aspects of the agenda of the 1%. This is why people like George Soros are massively funding organizations that are promoting open borders. What's his organization called that operates in 100 countries now? The Open Society Foundation. It should be called the Open Borders Foundation because that's what it's really about. And so it's not about whether you are for immigration or against immigration. It's not a black and white debate in any way, shape or form. It's about what is the impact of immigration on people in a country, including those former migrants, of having an unlimited number of other people coming in. Again, you see in these election campaigns, you see the Labour Party saying, we will build all these houses for, people, what used to be called in the heyday of the Labour Party, working people. But this is the point. And they're saying, we're going to spend more on the National Health Service. But it doesn't matter how many homes you build or how much you put into the National Health Service or how much you put into schools. It doesn't matter, because if the door is open and people are coming in large numbers, pushing up the size of the population, which is massively what's happened, then you'll never put enough money in to house everybody, to give everyone decent health care and a place at school. I mean, I would argue in many ways against schools as they are structured now, but this is what they're from where they're coming from. That's what they're saying. So, okay, so you're going to build all these houses, yeah. What that's going to sort of be to help the homeless? Oh yeah, okay. But people keep coming in and keep coming in. So every year that passes, you're having to find more homes for more people, more hospital places for more people, more school places for more children. So where does it end? But they never go through that process, because they think, the wokers, that their natural constituency is going to support what they say and therefore vote for them. And also they think, this is absolutely true of the Democrats in the United States, that the more migrants come in, the more votes the Democrats will have, because most migrants will vote for them, because they support migrants. And I support migrants that are in need. But, it's like everything. Nothing's black and white. It's all a shade of grey. And one of the agendas, of course, of the EU tyranny is to support this transformation of European society. Now, this is a classic. You've got this increasing resistance and skepticism of the European Union all over Europe. But still, the bureaucrats and the political place people go on pushing what the agenda has been all along, which is to create a centralized superstate in Europe, which dictates to every other country. and every community in every other country. And so we have this story. One would think Sweden's general election on Sunday, which once more saw big gains for a populist movement demanding a referendum on EU membership, would make Brussels stop and think about their visions of a federal Europe. Instead, the last few days have once again shown that a period of reflection is not on the agenda. It all started with a guy, Verhofstadt. If you've ever seen this guy, this man is so arrogant and so contemptuous of the public and its view. It's staggering. Another bureaucrat, never seen a ballot box to get his job. Perhaps the most outspoken and prominent supporters of an even closer union, it says of this bloke. And the European Parliament's negotiator for Brexit. Do you think he's going to be fair when the last thing he wants is for Britain to leave the European Union and its prison state? He quite diplomatically proclaimed in an interview with a French newspaper that the UK's decision to leave the European Union had saved the EU. Fortunately, we have Brexit. It illustrates the populist wave, but it has also provoked a resurrection of attachment to the EU, he said, which you've helped to manipulate, of course. Jean-Claude Juncker's annual State of the European Union speech on Wednesday took up the same theme. While the President of the European Commission struck a more conciliatory tone on Brexit, he nonetheless made it clear that more EU integration is the only way forward, and there is no way where they're looking back. So when more and more people, not least in Britain, but you'll find it across Europe, are starting to resist the increasing centralization of power and dictatorship in Europe, their response to that is to have more centralization of power and greater dictatorship. Because it's an agenda, nothing to do with what people want, the opposite. Juncker started with the usual story that the EU is the guarantor of peace on the continent. Indeed, he started all the way back in the year 1914 to prove his point. Well, the very same people, as I've revealed in my books at length, the very same people and networks that manipulated the First World War and manipulated the Second World War also manipulated into place the European Union. Create the problem, then offer the solution. I speak of these times not because I believe we are on the brink of another catastrophe. We should be thankful we live on a peaceful continent. Well, not so peaceful if you look around. Made possible by the European Union. No, it's not made possible by the European Union at all. And as the writer of this article says, that will certainly come as news to the citizens of Bosnia or Ukraine in terms of peace in Europe. Ukraine, of course, not being in the EU yet, but wants to be. The inclusion of Juncker's dodgy history lesson was simple. Let us show the European Union a bit more respect. Well, when it shows more respect for the population, you might have a chance. Another curious feature of the speech, this article says, was that everything that has gone wrong with the European project on Juncker's watch is someone else's fault, while he is personally responsible for all the supposed policy wins. The Juncker Fund, which was his idea, is the reason why investment is back in Europe, which is absolutely not true. Greece is supposedly back on its feet, which is absolutely not true. And it's because of Juncker. I have always fought for Greece. Of this I'm proud. Well, actually, the European Union destroyed Greece. And so it goes on. It's all lies and lies to hide the real point, which is it's all about more and more power centralized in Europe to turn it into a superstate.